put it in a box. And let's make up 100 of these boxes and let's ship them out to everybody, and now you can go sell to the architect community. That's not what it's about. And again, going back to Frank's comment a few minutes ago, and I think it's most important, it's not any different of a sale than making a sale. It's the very same thing we do every single day going out the door. It's developing, making this. I'm Mike Gilveski from Rochester, New York. I'm here to talk with Bob Street and John Breidenbach, Frank Banasek, and Brad Ferris about how to sell to the design professional. Oftentimes it's a lunch and learn, as you mentioned, but it's not always the case. There's been as many cases as there have been lunch and learns. It's been a first-time call about coming in and just explaining who we are. Trump goes to features and benefits, taking them through some things, trying to get a better understanding as to what their needs are from a design professional standpoint, and being sensitive to the fact that time is money, and that's how they bill out their time. They bill it out, and we probably should not waste their time. We only should have something to give them, something to share with them, something to do for them. John, we played with it earlier, but we can go through it again here. As I made mention to you, and kind of anecdotal here, Frank Banasek was my trainer. He's been a mentor, and as we agreed, he's also been a tour mentor to me on so many occasions. But one thing that I learned early on in my career is that when we're having a conversation with any client, be it an architect or be it a buildings and grounds guy or even a CFO, CEO kind of a guy, you always leave something with them, or you always put something in their hands. You always demonstrate something to them, be it a poll sample or whatever. They get enamored by while you're talking, while you're going through some things to do that. Some of the tools that we currently use, John, and I think this is what you were referring to, these were made by a WTI supervisor, Mike Alley, who is currently employed in the greater Rochester area. And I'd asked Mike to put together a couple mock-ups that showed the insulation and subsequent showed the cover board. Okay, you can see the insulation. It could be a variety of thicknesses, but for demonstration, that's what it was. Showed the cover board. In this particular case, we have 3 different types of single ply. And the 3 different kinds of single ply was just, again, for conversational. So you could put together a configuration and show an 060 fully adhered, for instance, and you put that in the hand of the client. Subsequent to that conversation or that discussion, you might want to demonstrate a built-up opportunity or built-up configuration as well. And Mike Alley's genius extended to this. He took the composite ply sheet, he applied the adhesive to the back of it, let it cure out, and then actually cut them up into sections, still affording the base layers of insulation, polyisocyanate, cover board, dense deck, and then a multi-ply built-up roofing, demonstrating a difference in thickness and toughness, and then a variety of cap sheets and or finished products. I think it's been incredibly useful and a very, very strong tool when you begin to have those discussions with the superintendent or whoever it might be to put these in his hands and allow him to go through it. And ultimately, at the end of it, he said, so basically, I'm going to build a 2 and a cap. So this would be my roof system compared to this roof system. So yes, incredibly so. For 25 or 30% more, this is what you would get versus a system like this. The lights come on, and again, be it a facilities manager or the design professional, it's been our experience in the past that even the design professional doesn't have a clear understanding as to what you're really talking about when you're explaining a redundant 4-ply built-up system versus a single ply. Yeah, John, I think if those of the folks that are hearing this right now can remember last year, I think Frank and I had some direct conversations, and Brad, regarding our position about evolving to survive. We had to change the way we were doing our business, and we had to change who we were calling on to grow our business, to establish ourselves, and to grow our business, because frankly, in the Rust Belt of Western New York, business was going away. The private work was beginning just to fade out. As a result of that, we began to call in the design professionals, and the more we ingratiated ourselves into that community, we found opportunity in the K through 12 business. That being said, we were very cognizant of the fact that every 5 years in New York State, the state education department requires each and every school district that's going to be aided a building condition survey performed by the architect community, and then sent in January 15th, I think it's 2016 this year. And for the next 5 years, then it can be funded based on that building condition survey. Frank Banasek, Chuck Fitzgerald, Brad Ferris, and I, we worked very hard with the State Education Department to set a platform for diagnostics to be utilized in New York State to evaluate existing building systems, so whether or not they needed to be replaced or they could be restored or whatever. Ultimately, the State Education Department came out with a 2-page paper and submitted to the architect community that when you submit your building condition surveys, those surveys have to include these diagnostics. The strongest diagnostic that they're looking to get information on is the infrared scans. It's something that Frank's worked on, I know, for a long time in the Buffalo, New York area, and we have in Rochester as well, almost 10 years, utilizing our own cameras, our own guys, and not necessarily taking it as a loss leader, but in an effort to cover our cost. Unfortunately, our cameras are getting old, or at least my camera's getting old, and I've kind of run into a unique challenge, I guess, with our own company in terms of trying to fund a new camera and comparing the costs that we're affording the architect community versus the costs that we would get from our own company is substantially greater if we utilize the WTI service side of Cleveland. And when I mean substantial, I mean 500% and 600% greater what we're willing to offer it for. As a sales strategy, I think it's important to understand this. BCS affords us an opportunity to be central to the conversation between the client, the superintendent of schools, the buildings and grounds guy, and the architect. We establish the budgets, we go back and forth, we assist over here in generating the specs, and ultimately, the end in mind then is to get the black line sale at the end. I guess in summation of that, that's one of my biggest challenges, and unfortunately for me, unfortunately for Western New York, it happens to be an internal challenge. So I'm hopeful that's helped you, John. We had an opportunity a few years back, and you've asked me to utilize this as an example, and I will. There was the Department of Transportation building in the greater Rochester, New York area, and we were asked to go do a roof inspection along with some gentlemen who were coming in that day from Albany. They also needed access to the roof, which we provided. We went up and we did measurements, we did core extractions, we took photos, etc. And they examined some things. We discussed roofing options, roofing configuration differences. We pretty much agreed on what should be built after this roof got tore up and replaced. It's a 3.5-hour drive from Albany, New York to Rochester, Rochester to Albany, New York. And by the time that they got back to their office, we had contacted Brad Ferris, who was working in his office. We downloaded pictures, we sent him pictures, we provided him the construction information. He wrote the specs, he did the details, and it was on their computer by the time they got back from Albany, or from Rochester. And I got to tell you, nobody else does that. There's nobody else that can respond like that. The reason why architects do business with Tremco is based on the fact that we have a sense of urgency and we have a high level of responsivity. That's it.